What's up, everybody, and welcome to The Horror Within Me, a podcast dedicated to the world of horror. I am your host, Eric, and each week I'm going to rate and review a new movie or TV show that falls within the horror genre. Now, this is a show for horror fans, hosted by a horror fan who's just here to share my opinions and experiences with my fellow horror friends in hopes that you may gain something new to watch or not watch, and really just talk about all things related to this beautifully dark and spooky world that we call horror. So if this sounds like a show for you, stick around, we're going to have a lot of fun. So let's get started. Welcome back to a brand new Spooky Sunday episode of The Horror Within Me. I'm your host, Eric, and this is a podcast where we do horror movie reviews and more. This week's episode, we're going to be talking about the original WB television series, Charmed. I am so excited. Now, for my diehard horror fans out there, you're probably thinking I'm taking a step outside of the horror realm because Charmed technically doesn't really fall. It's going to be like a whole controversial argument about it. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to talk about whatever I want to talk about. I want to talk about Charmed because it's one of those shows that I've always loved and just recently finished the entire series again with my husband who has never seen it. And so I thought it was a perfect time, with it being very fresh on the brain, to do an episode on it and look at some of the reviews that people have said about it, past and present, whatever the case may be. So if you don't know what Charmed is, I find it hard to believe, but we're going to get over into that soon. I'll give you a synopsis. I'll give you a little brief history about the show and what I've liked about it and all the fun stuff that we do every week. This episode was supposed to come out last week, but I was really, really tired, and then I am just getting over a head and chest cold. So if I sound a little bit different, that's probably why. Today is probably the best that I felt in over a week, and it still isn't 100%. So I'm trying to be as enthusiastic and entertaining about this because this episode is so fun for me because, again, it's something that goes back to when I was a child, and it's very nostalgic to me, as to many other people. It's got a lot of great memories for me in there. So I'm very excited about this week's episode. So stick around. We're going to get a lot of fun things going on with this week's episode. So, as always, before we get into what Charmed is, I'm going to do what's called a terrifying trivia question that's going to be related to this week's episode. So, it is time for this week's terrifying trivia question. This week's question is, what is the name of the Halliwell sisters' cat in the show? Stick around to the end of the episode to get the answer. Now, fans of the show probably already know this or forgot about the cat because there's like this whole thing that like the cat's in it for a while and then the cat is just gone, and we're like, what happened to this cat? And then I think the writers also must have forgotten about the cat. I have no idea, but there's an episode that like brings the cat back and then uh like explains it away. So that's super cool, but I feel like that was like an afterthought. Like we should really just close that storyline because it was there and then it wasn't. So Charmed. I met Rose McGowan and Holly Marie Combs at Monster Mania in March of this year. And they were so wonderful. I was so excited. I have a picture of three of them with Phoebe as well, but Phoebe wasn't there. No, Alyssa Milano wasn't there. And if you know, there's like a whole drama with Alyssa Milano, with also Rose McGowan, who played Paige, and Shannon Doherty, who played Prue. There was a whole bunch going on. So you never really see Alyssa Milano at any of the charmed things, which is kind of disappointing because I would really, really love to meet her and get her as the third autograph on my poster. I would also really love to meet Shannon Doherty, but there's no picture that I could find with the four of them. And I can't give too many spoilers out if you've never seen Charmed on anything about it. But anyway, looking at it, I have the picture of me and Rose with my husband, and then me and Holly with my husband, and it's just one of my most cherished memories, as most of the things on the wall are. Speaking of Monster Mania, I'm going to do a sidebar real quick. Literally today, I just bought my tickets to Monster Mania Con 57, I believe. It's in Oaks, PA, and it's going to be like a Scream reunion. Nev Campbell, Matthew Lillard, Steve Ulrich. Jamie Kennedy, the guy that did the voice of Ghostface, I believe is there. Um, Also, Art the Clown is coming back, and David Howard Thornton and Damien Leone. And there's an in costume photo op with Art the Clown. And if you've been listening to the show, you know that one of my biggest regrets was not doing that in March when he was there. I bought my in costume photo op. I'm so freaking excited. It is the weekend of November 10th, 11th, and 12th. I will be there on Saturday, November 11th, I believe the date is. So if you're there, look for me. I'll probably be wearing this hat that's on my head right now for the screen because my goal is to at least get Final Girl, Sydney Prescott, aka Nev Campbell, on my wall of autographs, as I am a diehard fan and need her in the collection and would just love to meet her. So it's in Oaks, PA. Look it up, Monster Mania Con. Check it out. It's always fun. I've never been to this one. I've always gone to the one in Cherry Hill. So I heard this place is a little bit bigger. The tickets were about $5 more than what I'm used to spending. So I'm hoping that there's a little bit more going on there. Not that there's not enough going on in Cherry Hill. It would just be a different experience. So now that that's out of the way, I also want to talk about another thing before we get into Charmed. I want to talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that came out. Now, the last episode was based on the movie, and we talked about the game coming out. I just want to say that I fucking love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. I haven't streamed it on anything yet, but I've played it, and I played with my niece yesterday, and we're going to be playing again today after I'm done editing and recording this episode. But it is so much fun. Now, you know that I love the Friday the 13th game. I love Dead by Daylight, and I now love Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And all of them for different reasons. Dead by Daylight will always just be Dead by Daylight. Like, it's just amazing. It's just a little bit more behind it. There's a lot more content going on, and it's just an amazing game. Friday the 13th, as we all know, unfortunately, is going away in another year or so, and we won't be able to play it again, but that's just a chaotic mess that we love to have fun with. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, to me, found the balance between Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th, and I feel like I am immersed in the actual world of Texas Chainsaw. I feel like I'm in the movie. It is all about being stealthy and quiet and escaping. There are 3 killers, 4 survivors, and it isn't like I'm a Connie survivor and I'm a Sissy main killer. She's not from any of the movies, but she's super cool. But I'm always a victim more. I just love that aspect of being like a final girl. So if you haven't played it, it's so much fun. It has cross-play. Check it out. I believe the Xbox Game Pass was free for people. I'm a PS5 guy. My name, if you didn't know, on PS5 is Horror Within Me. Check me out. Send me a message. Say that you heard it on the podcast and you want to play some matches with me. Because if you just send me a random friend request on PlayStation, I'm not going to accept it. I need a message saying that we heard it on the podcast and that's why we are becoming friends on PlayStation. Come check it out. Send me a message and we'll make time to play. It's super, super fun. And also probably play Dead by Daylight. I don't know. We're looking to build the community of my people outside of this. So that's the recent news for me. We're going to jump now into the bulk of this episode, which is based again on Charmed. Now, the synopsis for Charmed on IMDb is this. 3 Halliwell sisters discover that they are descendants of a line of good female witches and are destined to fight against the forces of evil using their combined power of witchcraft known as the Power of 3. Charmed is starring Holly Marie Combs as Piper Halliwell, Alyssa Milano as Phoebe Halliwell, Shannon Doherty as Prue Halliwell, Rose McGowan as Paige Matthews, Brian Krause as Leo Wyatt, Dorian Gregory as Daryl Morris, Julian McMahon, I can't say his name, McMahon, whatever, as Cole Turner, Jennifer Rhodes as Penny, aka Grams Halliwell, Finola Hughes as Patty Halliwell, Kaylee Cuoco as Billy Jenkins, James Reed as Victor Bennett. I am so terrible with names. I apologize, and that's all I'm going to say on that. The original run of Charmed was from October 7th, 1998 until May 21st, 2006. Ran for 8 seasons and has 178 episodes. The original network that it aired on was the WB, which is now called the CW. I know, I know. It's like, fuck, what the hell? Who ever heard of the WB? These Gen Z people were like, WB? Yeah, the CW still has the same kind of shows like Riverdale and things like that. So, teen shows. It was created by Constance M. Berg, produced by Constance M. Berg, Brad Kern, and Aaron Spelling, and E. Duke Vincent. It has a rating for TV 14, a runtime of episodes of 40 to 45 minutes each. The genre it falls under is drama, fantasy, mystery, and the tagline is once lucky, twice smart, three times charmed. Has an IMDb rating of 7.1 out of 10, a TV Guide rating of 62%. And that is the on paper information of Charmed. I'm going to back up a little bit here. I want to talk about the original run. 1998, I was about in October 7th of 1998. I had just turned 12 years old in that August that just had passed. So I was already a huge fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which spoiler alert, that will be a episode in the future very soon, probably because as a huge diehard fan, I need to get this on there because it's just something I did an episode on for the 20th anniversary talking about it, but I really want to do a more structured episode on Buffy the Vampire Slayer because it is my all-time favorite show of all time, and this is a show about things that I love and want to share with the world instead of trying to do things that I think people would like, as we've talked about before. So just stay tuned. That show will be coming out soon. But we're talking about Charmed right now. Like I said, I just finished this episode with my husband, this series with my husband, and this is the second time I've seen it fully through. So a little backstory. Like I said, when Charm came out, I was 12 years old. I was watching it. I was a huge fan of Buffy, so I wanted to see it. It was on the same network during the time that it was released as Buffy, before Buffy moved on to the UPN. And it was about three girls, three sisters, and demons fighting demons. I'm like, okay, it's similar to witchcraft. Let's check it out. Uh, so I did, and I instantly fell in love with it. And it was completely different than Buffy, but I still fell in love with it for its own thing. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get to finish watching it from its original series run. Now, see, Buffy, I believe, ended in the spring of 2003, and as I just said, Charmed finished in the spring of 2006. Now, we're gonna go back to that time in my life, and so I stopped watching Charmed probably around the same time Buffy ended, and the main reason that was is my mom was diagnosed with cancer right after Buffy ended in spring of 2003. So my mom was diagnosed with cancer in July or June, what May or June, July, one of those right around that time of 2003. So that became something that I had taken over my brain. Obviously, at that point, I was in 2003, going in the summer of 2003. I was 16, going on 17. And I remember my mom had a huge operation. They were going to try to remove it. They didn't know how big the tumor was in July of 2003. And then they found out that they couldn't remove it. It was just spread so much throughout her abdomen and her colon and all of that. So then it became like she was on chemotherapy and see what we could do, leading up to June of 2004 when she ultimately passed away from cancer. So that time in my life after 2003 to 2004, my mom passed away in June. And then by December, I believe, November, December of 2004, we were renting the house. We were renting. The landlord said that we had to leave. He was getting rid of the house. So then we ended up moving to Virginia Beach with a family friend at the time. And so I had just lost my mom and I was losing my entire state. And it was a lot of back and forth. And then when I had turned 18 in 2004, so then I was bouncing around between the 18, 19, 20, trying to find my footing, find my place. So during those last couple seasons of Charmed, my life was the most probably unstable it had been ever. So I didn't have a stable home. I didn't have anything like that to have the thought process to continue watching a series that I had loved. I didn't finish watching this series until I was an adult in my 20s and had my own apartment with my ex at the time. And I want to actually say that we had already split. So I was probably in almost 30 when I finally went back and watched all 8 seasons of Charmed. And then, my husband, now that we've been together for almost 6 years, we've talked about it. We have similar interests with things like that. So then we watched the series together and we just finished it a couple weeks ago. We'd started it and then he had gotten sick with meningitis and then ended up in the hospital, which you all know if you've been listening. And one of the things that I would put on, because Charmed is always rerunning on like TNT, when we was in the hospital unconscious, I would put on TNT and it would be reruns of Charmed, and there was ones that we hadn't seen yet. So I tried to make it as normal environment and the hospital as it was at home while he was sleeping, and would talk to him. And one of the things that I would say to him is like, look, we're still watching Charmed, babe. Like, Charmed's on TV, because we would come home and we would watch it during that time period. And so now looking back, this is like a series that has gone in very prominent traumas of my life and has gotten me through a lot of things. And like, for him to be able to come home and get better, and then we were able to pick back up. We've met some of the actresses, we've had conversations, and to be able to finish this was just, it meant a lot to be able to finish this series with him after being so uncertain on what was going on, especially when he had first went and got sick. So this episode is just this series and this episode is so like close to my heart for so many different reasons. And yes, this is very heavy personal stuff that I'm airing out there right now, but it's a weird storm of things. So I appreciate everyone sticking around and listening to this episode, because again, it's just something that I really wanted to do because of those reasons. So we're gonna have a lot of fun moving on now that I've aired the importance of this series to my life out there, and we're gonna move in to the next phase of this episode, which is going to be a little lighter. It's going to be fun. We're going to laugh. We're going to joke. And it's going to be the top 3 best and worst reviews of the series Charmed on IMDb. Coming in with the top 3 best reviews, the first one is titled Huge Charmed Fan. This was written in May 2006. And if you were listening, that was the end of the series. It had just ended. So here's the review. I don't get attached to TV shows, nor collect them on DVD, except for Charmed. The supernatural aspects of the show are fun and do not seem to be taken too seriously. The core group of actors have a fantastic chemistry, and the relationships are so well developed. I like it just as much, if not more, to see how the sisters get through situations together, both magical and non magical. I would dare compare the character development and interpersonal relationships as well done as in Jane Austen novel. You see their strengths and their faults. All the actors get a round of applause. Both Holly Marie and Alyssa get a standing ovation for becoming producers of the show. Well done, ladies. Um, Obviously, this person's a huge fan, and I get it. Like, I don't get to touch TV shows nor collect them on DVD. I actually don't collect a lot of TV shows on DVD either back then, but I had all of the Buffy uh complete collection. I never had Charmed, but it's actually on my Amazon wish list for Blu-ray, the complete collection of Charmed, as well as the Book of Shadows replica. I need that. I almost bought the Book of Shadows replica when I was in Asbury Park for my bachelor party weekend. I had it, sent the picture to my husband. It's still in my phone, and I ended up going for something else at the time, and it's one of my biggest regrets. Still gonna buy it though, because I just wish I had it, so when I would have met the girls, they could have signed my Book of Shadows. But anyway, I do want to collect Charmed on DVD. I thought it was great. I agree with this review that they have fantastic chemistry. Even knowing now behind the scenes animosities before that, I see the chemistry, and I think the animosity between especially Rose and Alyssa later seasons when they were having sisters, like sister bickering, was easier to believe because of the actual dislike that they probably had for each other. So I thought that may have helped that kind of chemistry. So I thought this was a great review, and I also picked it because I wanted to make a note to make sure that Holly Marie Combs and Alyssa Milano got recognition for becoming producers of the show in the later seasons. I don't remember what season it was, but they became producers. It was maybe 4 or 5, but awesome. I love to see that, especially when people are so involved. I think it's really well done. Also, while I'm still on my brain, there is a podcast where Holly Marie, Brian Krause, and damn, I'm losing his name. I can't think of his name. It'll come back to me. But he's Chris in the show. It'll come back to me. But they 3 of them have a podcast called House of Halliwell. I haven't listened to all of it, but I follow them on TikTok and Instagram, and they have great clips. And so it sounds like a really good thing where they're watching it, and it's super fun. Drew Fuller, I believe his name is. Anyway, moving on to the second best review of Charmed. This episode's all over the place, but I'm also on Medicine and Sick, so stick around, stick with me, stick through it with me, please. Next one is called Ahead of Its Time. This is written in February of 2018. Here we go. The TV show is beyond amazing. The storylines are great up until the final season. The character development is shown greatly, and the way they handled Shannon exit was great. The show featured empowered women way before feminism was so popular, and it showed how women could save the day as much as men. So really, this was not written that much, that far away, 6, 7 years ago. So definitely 5 years ago, whatever. I don't know math today either. Great review for something. So somebody going back and watching, we don't know if they've seen it before, but anyway, I agree with the show. Is the storylines are great up until the final season. I enjoyed the final season. My husband may have said some comments about the final season where it felt like it was something that was already done in the beginning of the series. But I don't know. For me, I think when you're ending something, it goes back to the beginning. It always does things like that. So wrapping it up that way usually makes sense, especially for shows like that back in the day. Like even with Buffy, it kind of had storylines that went backwards or brought back, I should say. So I don't agree that the way that they handled Shannon's exit was great. And I'm going to say this with that was not handled well. And this is a spoiler. If you didn't know, Shannon Doherty does not stay in the show. She's only in the first 3 seasons. And there was, I guess, animosity, and she's never seen again in the show. But there are other characters that they bring back, and there's a lot of things that they do, and they just, as important of a person as she is in the show, it made no sense. And as what they continue to do with the sisters over and over again, and they were able to do so much in the past, it didn't make sense. Now, this is not to take away from Rose McGowan and her character of Paige, because I love Rose McGowan and Paige. I think she was a great choice, and the only reason that show continued on for another 5 years. Not saying Alyssa and Holly, but they were already in it. But like, they could have put someone else in there that would have failed and would have been the end of that show. Rose McGowan being what she is the reason that they were able to have that chemistry and continue on the series. But I completely disagree that they were able to handle the exit well. It wasn't well done. That's the only thing I disagree with on this review. Moving on to the last great review, best review on Charmed for IMDb. It's called Probably One of the Best Supernatural Shows! Exclamation point. This is written in September of 2019. Here we go. It says, I was the biggest Charmed fan during all 8 seasons. I was devastated when Shannon left the show. No, she was not fired. She got an ultimatum that made her leave. That was in parentheses. Watching it today, and then in parentheses again, it has 21 years later, makes me realize why I loved the show. It's not only a drama show, it's comedy, great acting, and great storytelling. I have to admit that a few episodes were super childish, but that's also charming. Everybody should have this show on their checklist to watch because it's greater than great. Love it. All caps, exclamation point. Okay. I also was devastated when Shannon left. We just had a conversation, so I don't want to get too far into that. And I don't want to speculate because I've read a lot of different things. I don't believe she was fired. I do believe that she left because of the issue she was having with Alyssa Milano during the time. And I also read that they've made up somewhat. And also, just FYI, Shannon Doherty was some Brenda in 90210, and she did like a not Fear Factor. Was it Fear Factor? Might have been Fear Factor for a couple seasons, and I also just love her. I always liked her. Brenda was my favorite character in 90210. She is battling stage 4 breast cancer and has been for some time. Apparently, is also BFFs with Sarah Michelle Gellar, who played Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Um, and so our thoughts are always with her, to stay healthy as long as possible. Stage 4 is never, a great diagnosis, and there's no reverse for stage 4 cancers. Once you hit that stage, that's just what it is. Not to be like grim, but we've talked about my mom in the beginning of the episode with cancer. It's not a good diagnosis. So we wish her to have the happiest life as possible as long as she can be healthy and not in pain. We love Shannon, so whatever people's opinions are of her or what you write about her is not fair to be mean spirited or say nasty things about her. But back to the review. Um, it's crazy to see things like 21 years later, and that was in 2019. So, like, do the math because I already said I'm not doing that today. There are episodes that are super childish, which is another thing. Like I look back on like seasons 5 and 6, where it was a lot of like leprechauns and fairies and things like that, and that was a little like crazy to me. But like looking back, it's all magical and whimsical, and like it made sense. But like also, I see what people were saying. It went away from the darker aspects of the beginning seasons, so I can agree with that. I can agree with it, but watching it again, it wasn't as hard to watch as I thought it was in the beginning when I first watched them, because I think I was younger and not so open minded to the magical community, I guess you would call it, as they do in the show. But that concludes the top 3 best reviews of Charmed on IMDb. It's time to get into the top 3 worst reviews for Charmed on IMDb. The first one is titled 3 Words. It was written in April of 2007. Here we go. 3 words describe this exercise in stupidity. Worst show ever. Only for people who love hurting themselves or like feeling stupid. Watching this god awful show would make you wish TV was never invented, so crap like this show never came into being. For those that do like this show, ask yourselves, why am I watching this? There's plenty of compelling quality TV on right now for your viewing pleasure. Watch Buffy or Angel, or even Gilmore Girls. Shows that have thoughtful dialogue are actually story driven, I think they meant to say. Charmed only gets by because it has 3 hot women who unfortunately do not know how to act. The show's one saving grace was Cole, and he vanished after season 4. Fuck. Okay, so this was written almost a year after the series ended. So, worst show ever? No, never. It's got a huge cult following, so maybe for you that's fine, but only for people who love hurting themselves or feeling stupid. What the fuck? How is watching something hurtful? This is what I mean with these people. Here come the dramatics that like make you wish TV was never invented. I wish TV was never invented so I didn't have to watch shit like Charmed. How about the good thing about TV, even back then, is that you didn't have to watch it. Even then, you could have watched Gilmore Girls or Buffy or Angel, as you pointed out. And then here's my thing. Did you watch the whole series? Because that's 8 fucking seasons that we discussed. 8 years. You at least watched 4 seasons, I think. It said you watched at least 3 seasons or 4 seasons because you said Saving Grace was Cole. So you kept watching for years. Like, it's not even like when we talk about movie reviews and people are like, worst hour and a half of my life. I get like getting mad at people like, oh my god, you wasted an hour, or you'll never get it back. I hate when people say that. But this is different. This is a television series. You wasted 4 years weekly watching something that you didn't like. Why did you keep doing it? What the fuck was going on? I That's a weird commitment. That's a weird commitment to me. So maybe you do enjoy hurting yourself. Maybe you did enjoy every fucking Thursday or whatever at 8 p.m. when it came on, and it was like, oh fuck, here we go. I can't stand this show, but I'm going to sit here for the next hour and watch it because I really enjoy not enjoying this hour of my life on Thursdays. What the fuck? You're dumb. Moving on to the next review. Titled, Been More Entertained Watching Paint Dry. Written in November of 2022. This is almost like almost a year ago. Here we go. Had such high hopes going into this show. I was told by many that I'd really enjoy this show. They were so wrong. 2 exclamation points on wrong. I seriously didn't like anything to do with this show. 2 more exclamation points. The acting is below average. The show looks like it was filmed on a potato, or the directed, I think they meant to say, or the director had no clue what cleaning the lenses meant. Cleaning the lenses in quotations. It seriously felt like I was watching a scene from The Bold and the Beautiful. 2 more exclamation points. The group dynamic is very bitchy, quotations. The girls are non-stop bickering with each other. I get they are supposed to be sisters, I think in parentheses. But oh my god, it felt like I took a time machine back to primary school. 2 exclamation points. This show is an utter mess and seriously don't understand the raving reviews. Not deserving of it at all. 2 more exclamation points. All right, let's count the 2 exclamation points at the end of everything. We have 1, 2, hold on. 3, 4, 5. They used 2 exclamation points 5 times in 2 paragraphs. Crazy. They are really not feeling it. Also, again, did you watch the whole series? Had high hopes going into this show. I was told by people that I would enjoy this. Who told you this? Because clearly you didn't like it. Also, it looks like it was filmed on a potato. I actually thought that, well, yeah, I don't know what you watched on because I watched it on streaming and I thought that it looked really good. Like they really got the picture quality back up from the 90s, early 2000s because it could have looked bad. I don't think it looked like it was from a potato or what cleaning the lens. I thought it looked really good. Now, obviously, the effects you can't change because of the time, but I think it looked pretty good. Also, the title, More Entertained Watching Paint Dry. So unoriginal. Stop using that. Can we stop saying I was more entertained watching paint dry or waiting for water to boil? Something stupid. Come on, let's make up new ones. Let's see. More entertained. Let's see. I don't know. I was more entertained. I don't know. Somebody come up with something. I can't. My brain is fried. But yeah, whatever. The group dynamic is very bitchy. I don't think it was very bitchy. I thought that they bickered like siblings, and it wasn't over the top or all the time either. Um, I don't know what's going on. They weren't nonstop. I think the only thing I could say though is that they did never protected the house. Like they always wanted demons to come there and fight. Like that was weird. But anyway, moving on to the last worst review on IMDb for Charmed. It's titled "Utterly Beneath Contempt." Jesus, this was written in February of 2019. Here we go. This is going to be hard to read before I start reading this. I just want to give a disclaimer. Like I put this on here, but just stick with it. Just stick with it. Ready? Here we go. It's surprising the Legion of Decency hasn't condemned this program, but then Charms Welton Chung is decidedly Catholic. What with the show's demons, possession, black magic, etc. What happened to that verse from Genesis? And God, infinite, unchanging, good, saw everything he had made, and behold, it was very good. So, So the monsters, demons, etc. in Charmed are his creation. And if not, he tolerates their existence? Or there is a personal devil wearing against God and tempting humanity and trying to send human souls to eternal damnation. God is the only cause and creator. Everything he creates reflects him and is therefore good. Nothing else is real, has no power over man, and is not to be feared. Charmed encourages people to believe in things that do not exist and cannot harm them. No responsible adult would allow their children to watch it. um, we knew there was going to be one. You know, we knew there was going to be one of these zealots out there. The Legion of Decency. Is that a real thing? I feel like I want to Google it right now, but fuck, I don't want to be silent on this show, and you guys are gonna think I disconnected or something. Sorry. Um. Also, charms, not charmed. I don't know what this word is if I'm not pronouncing it wrong. It's WELTANSCHAUUNG. Walton's Chung is decidedly Catholic. I don't know what Walton's Chung means. Somebody tell me what Walton's Chung means. I'm gonna Google it after this. But fuck, this is so stupid. So fucking stupid. No responsible adult will allow their children to watch it. Not everyone is a fucking. Oh, here we go. Like, your way of thinking is the only way of thinking. I'm going to get into a religious rant. Full fucking disclaimer. If you are a religious person and you're going to get offended, just stop listening to me. I was raised, semi-raised Catholic. I was baptized, and that's as far as I went. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't fucking do that shit. I think it is so goddamn hurtful to children and adults. How fucking negative that religion is. Like, nothing is real but God. Everything he creates reflects him, and nothing to, and it's not to be feared. But yeah, at the same sentence, you're supposed to fear God. Everything you do needs to be in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, or you're going to hell. They literally damn you to hell. They damn people like me to hell. But not to be feared. And I don't want to hear love the sin, not love the sin, like whatever. It's not the sin, is the sinner. Whatever the fucking thing is, that's also fucking super toxic. Okay? It's not a sin to be homosexual. Okay? Every fucking species has it. I can't stand the fucking religious people that are so closed minded and think that that's the only thing they believe is what they believe. And that's why I put it on here, because I like Wicca. I like witchcraft. I don't think everything is satanic. I believe in light and love. And I don't care how corny that sounds. I have my crystals and my books and my rituals that I do. And I'm a great person. I have a fucking good heart. I believe that there is a higher power. It may be a god or gods or goddesses. I don't know. But I don't believe that there is a one religion that is correct, because if most religions do things like this where they damn everyone that don't believe in what they believe in, they try to make it all fucking bad. That is my rant on this review. Stop putting that shit out there. Or do whatever you want to do, because I'm putting my shit out there too, and I'm just going to tell you about it. And rant, again, this is a heavy episode. I'm sorry if you don't like it. I'm sorry, not sorry. That concludes this week's top 3 best and worst reviews on the television show Charmed. We're going to get into now what I liked most about the series Charmed. Again, there's 178 episodes, 8 seasons, so what did I like most? It all boils down to this: the importance of family and sisterhood. I have 3 sisters. I grew up with 2 of them. We are very close. We've been through a lot together. The importance of family is strong, and it doesn't have to be blood, though. I want to say that. I have family that is not blood, that is just as important. And I do think that circle, that support is very important, and you fight for them, and you make up, and you go to bat for them. You know what I mean? Like, you're there for each other. Charmed is at the core. That's what it's about. Period. Now, what I liked the least about Charmed was some of the later seasons lost the darker aspects of the beginning 3 seasons. I already said that, but I wanted to preface that that's what I liked the least about it. Like I said, the whimsical fairy leprechauns kind of things with that they had later on. Just I personally like a little bit of a darker undertone for certain things because I'm darker kind of person. That's if I had to pick anything, I like that the least, along with the way that Shannon's exit was handled in the later seasons. I really wish they could have done some kind of agreement to have had her come back in a couple of ways. I don't think it would have taken away. I agree with what I read that the reason that they didn't, one of the reasons, I don't know if it's true, they didn't have her in the series finale was that they didn't want to take away from the other girls. But if you would have had her in a few other episodes before that, it wouldn't have taken it away. They could have had pictures. They just lost there was no images of Prue ever again. And that was just not done well. Now, let's go and answer this week's terrifying trivia question. Again, the question was, what is the name of the sister's cat? And then answer is, the cat's name was Kit. And Kit was the sister's familiar, we end up finding out, and in a episode, spoiler alert, was turned into a human. I don't remember her name, and goes on to, do whatever. She lives out her life. But yeah, Kit disappeared after a while, and then she was brought back, and they closed her storyline out. So, with every episode, we talk about deaths. So, the number of kills in Charmed is ridiculous. Like, there was no information out there. There's no number of vanquishes or kills. So when they killed a demon, they vanquished a demon. But there's also human deaths. And then also, this is what I wrote down. I'm going to say this. The number of times people were killed and time was reversed. Demons came back after vanquish and time was reversed. Wait, I already said it. Here's the point. It's impossible to tell you how many times people died and came back because it happened so many fucking times. Demons were killed and vanquished like the fear demon was vanquished like thousands of times. Not thousands, but like he was in it so many times. So you can't count how many deaths were in Charmed or how many kills were in Charmed. But you can say for one solid one, but I ain't going to say it. But you already know if you're keeping up. But it's time to get into the end of this episode, which is the final rating and review for Charmed. All right, so the rating system we're going to use are the Book of Shadows. I rate Charmed a 9 out of 10 Book of Shadows. And here is my final review. The power of 3 will set us free. I first began watching Charmed on its original air date back in 1998 at the age of 12. I was already a diehard fan of Buffy, which was on the same network, so I was instantly interested when this was announced. Now, having watched the series during its original run and now recently, I can say it still holds up. Yes, the 90s style and references and even effects are very much dated compared to today's shows. But the message of good versus evil, the bond of sisters and family is timeless. If you're a fan of witches, fantasy shows, and kick-ass women, then I highly recommend watching this show. Charmed is available to stream now on Peacock. And that is the end of this week's episode. Thank you all so much for joining me. It has been my pleasure. I'm going to go make a cup of tea for this throat for talking for almost an hour. And I will see you all next Sunday. Stay spooky, everybody. Thanks again for joining me on another episode of The Horror Within Me. Please rate and review the show on whatever platform you're listening in from, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to get notified when new episodes drop. I'm also on all major social channels, so be sure to check out my website, www.thehorrorwithinme.com, for all those links. And until next time, my friends, Stay spooky.